Hey, it's Heidi. Welcome back for another video. In case you haven't heard, I'm leading a rule rebellion. What is that? Well, most of us are walking around asleep. We're sleeping, and I'm not talking about being woke, okay? I'm just saying we're sleeping. We're not conscious to these unwritten rules that we've been following that have been impacting our ability to have a happy life. The life that you deserve, filled with mutually beneficial relationships that light you up. And so each week, we're systematically uncovering one of those unconscious rules, bringing them to the light, turning the lights on, and changing the way you interact with the people in your world. Because here's the goal. I want you to get your power back. And where is it? Right now, your power is likely in the hands of somebody who doesn't appreciate, understand, respect, or value you in the way that you deserve to be valued, appreciated, respected, and treated. I know that because I help people who are in unhealthy, toxic, or dysfunctional relationships, and I help them actually claim their value. I help them root down in their real value, find their power, speak their truth, get their real power back, and live the life that you're meant to live. And I'm happy you're here because today we're going to talk about control. This is a rule that I know very well firsthand. Sometimes I use client stories. Sometimes I use not real client stories. I use like a hodgepodge because anonymity is really important to me. A lot of people that I work with don't want to shout from the rooftops that there's something going on, right? We're private people, most of us. So here's the deal though. Today I'm going to use my own personal story when I talk about this need for control. You know what I'm talking about, right? Control freak in the house. Is that you? Where you find like the only person you can count on is you. Nobody else is going to do it the way you're going to do it. Well, in order for us to really break free from this control, why would you want to break free? Well, honey, if you're doing it, it is causing you anxiety. How many plates can you spin? We know they all come crashing down eventually. You've got your life you're trying to manage, somebody else's life you're trying to manage, somebody else's life. And so all these plates in the air leads to overwhelm, exhaustion, and resentment because they're not taking your dang advice anyway. They're not doing what you want them to do anyway. So there's resentment ultimately. So I want to help you root down in your authentic power. Control is a lame attempt at power, right? It's a lame attempt to get the power back when things feel out of control. And so in order for us to really heal, we've got to understand where it came from. I believe in 3 steps, right, to uncovering the unconscious and fixing these issues. Know yourself, be yourself, love yourself. Well, how do you know yourself? Well, you look back and you say, how did this happen? How did I become that way? And I've heard it said that a lot of people don't want to dwell in the past. And the old saying goes, if you don't dwell in the past, if you don't want to be dealing with the past dwells in you. And it dwells in you in these unconscious ways, right? So where did it come from? Your desire to control everything is a loving attempt. You're a loving person. You just want things to go well. You want to solve problems before they even happen. You 9 times out of 10 know the right thing to do before everybody else does. But your attempts to control everything are alienating people around you. They're making people feel like you're micromanaging them. You're making people feel uncomfortable when you don't want to. You're making people feel resentful. It's just not good. Okay. So when I tell my story about how I came to this point, I want you to be looking for your story. Likely a thing happened many, many years ago, and you made a decision about life. That life is like this, or people are like that, or I am like this. And then we develop this belief that I need to be in control of everything all the time. For me, I grew up in the backwoods of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, right on the border there. And every road was like a winding hill mountain, it seemed like to a little kid. And there were no guardrails back in those days, I don't think. When you could find one, thank God I'd find a guardrail because I could actually breathe. Because most of the time when I was driving with my dad, I was holding my breath. My dad never went anywhere without a beer between his legs. And when you're driving on those windy roads and he's getting drunker and drunker by the moment, it's like at any moment I thought we were going to go careening off the cliff into the forest below. And I just remember, terrified's not even the word. I just remember just feeling desperate to save us from the impending doom. And so whoever sat shotgun, my dad had a habit. He'd go down, he'd get the beer off the little plastic ring. He'd open up the beer and take his eyes off the road and down the beer And he would stay with that beer for as long as it took to drink the whole thing, which to a kid feels like a friggin' eternity, right? So I'd be like, oh my God, we're definitely going to die. Then he'd do it again and again and again and again and get another one and then get another six pack, and on the story went. So I used to sit right behind my dad, and I had made a little game. I had a little imaginary steering wheel, a little imaginary brake and a gas pedal, and I sat right behind him so I could see right behind his ear, and I actually would steer the car from the back seat. Now, to anybody else looking at me, I look like I was just like playing pretend driving the car, but no, honey, I controlled the car, or at least that's what I believed. All 5-year-olds believe they have superpowers, right? To some extent. That's why we love Elsa so much, right? Shh. I believed that I was controlling the car because when I would turn the wheel, it would turn. And I equated from a 5-year-old brain, I can control whether we survive. That is actually the distinction that I started to make at that early, tiny little brain was thinking. So I thought, well, that works in the car. I wonder what it'll do in the house. So I started trying to control my environment with my dad to see if I could get him to drink less. I would find the liquor and dump it out, hoping that he would, drink less. And sometimes it would work. He wouldn't get drunk because he wouldn't have any liquor. But I thought it was because I dumped it out that I was in control of that. I've thought sometimes maybe my house was too chaotic, that everybody was yelling and screaming. So if I just told my siblings how to behave and what to do and what not to do and try to control them, that would make my dad drink less. It's like everything I was doing in my house to control was to control an uncontrollable situation. And maybe you can relate to that. Maybe in your household there was something that felt uncontrollable to you, and your control issue, whether it was to clean your room obsessively and have your space clean, or maybe it was a little OCD action that developed there, or maybe it started with your food issues very early to control. But if you're in an anxious or dysfunctional household, control is the way we mitigate anxiety. And we think it works. And so it's a strategy is born. And we get great satisfaction out of it because we feel like we are avoiding crisis and being able to see, oh, dad's about to fall into the tree, move the thing and move him out of the way to divert the crisis. And we start to get this overinflated sense that we can control everything. Then we start to believe our own hype that we actually do know better than other people, and we can see. It's like we've got the crystal ball and we know it's going to hit the fan before it does, and we want to just prevent it from happening. So now our intentions are so pure, and we're going around to other people, we're going, no, you need to do this, because if you don't, that's going to happen. And so it worked as a kid maybe to help us be less anxious, but as an adult, you and I know it's not working anymore. So it's important to know where it developed for you, because you can understand, you can come from a compassionate place. You're not a control freak. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're functioning perfectly for the card that you were dealt. But now, so what, now what, right? That was then, this is now. So even though we didn't create the circumstance that created the personality, I call them attachment personality patterns in my work that I do with clients, whether you come to a retreat, you go through a program with me, you'll learn about these attachment personality patterns. The controller is one of these patterns. And if you work with me, we dive even deeper into exploring how it personally came about for you and how it personally impacts and affects your life. And it's really important to know that, because you behave in a very specific way and you feel very specific feelings, and those behaviors and feelings are why your life feels like it's not working sometimes, why your relationships aren't working, and the insight will set you free, right? Halfway. The second half is the set of new behaviors you need to adopt moving forward. How do you know it's not working now? Well, you're attempting to control your daughter's dating life, and she's not listening to you. You're attempting to control your husband's drinking. It's not working. You're attempting to control your son's going out or spending or whatever it is. You're attempting to control how your boss interacts. You're attempting to control everybody and everything, and actually what once relieved your anxiety is now creating more anxiety. Exhaustion, like we talked about, overwhelm. And maybe you're even at that point where you feel like you have to be in control all the time of everything, and you're wound so tight that the only break you give yourself is when you have your wine. And then you allow yourself to be out of control, but you go so far because you know what? All that restricting and control breeds compulsivity. So when you finally do have that thing that gives you permission to not give a shit or to check out and not be in so much control all the time, you overindulge. Whatever that activity is, spending, shopping, drinking, eating, and you go so far off the rails so that you can finally allow yourself to be out of control that now you have to come all the way back to this rigidity again, right? So you can see the pendulum is swinging. We're looking for balance. Yes, there are things in your life that you need to be in control of, right? Obviously. But what can you control and what do you need to let go of? In the studies that I've done, I'm a master teacher, but I have to tell you more than that, I'm an eternal student, right? I'm always wanting to wonder. I'm always asking, how does this work? Is there a system that we can apply that'll help us, change this behavior? Why do we do what we do and how to move past it? And so in my studies over the last several decades that I've been trying to break free from my own codependent patterns, this is a codependency pattern. Maybe it's the first time hearing that word. But codependence is just a thing that develops as a way to try to get love, as a way to try to get connected. And we develop these different personality patterns in an attempt to thrive, survive, connect, or cope in our family of origin. This is the work that I do. And then it's not working anymore. So we need a better way. So if you work with me, we go deep dive into how to what's the new way, right? To fix that old pattern and so that we don't do it anymore. Because now, the control, the illusion has been busted, right? It's like you can only believe you're in control for so long until it kind of blows up, right? Maybe you've tried to squash that thing down for so long. I got off track here and I feel led to say this right now because I feel like there's somebody watching this. It's like, it's been working in your life for so long. You felt like you had control over everything, but suddenly it's like kind of like the jig is up. I don't know what that is for you, but I feel like somebody watching this right now is having that experience where it's like, oh God, the cat's out of the bag. I'm out of control. Maybe that's your behavior. Maybe it's somebody else's behavior. And it's like everybody knows now, and now's go time for you to do something about it. I hope you seek me out to do something about it. But in the meantime, I want to give you some keys because I've discovered several keys to unlock this control pattern. I'm going to give you a couple now. At the root of it is your trust issues. Right? Why do we need to be in control? Because we don't trust anybody else or anything else. We only trust and count on ourselves. So the cure for this is to start to build trust. It's not rocket science, but how do you do it? How do you start to rebuild trust when your whole life has been a study and not being able to trust a damn thing or person or even God sometimes or a situation? How do you start from nothing? How do you rebuild trust with somebody who completely breaks your trust over and over again and start to give up control? How do you let somebody have the control who you know is a shit show? Shit show. How do you give them back control and go, here, have at it, it's your life? How do you actually do that? So much easier said than done. I'm going to give you a couple of different tips today. One of the keys that I found super helpful when I was trying to build trust again was to get out of here. Where does the lack of trust live? It lives in here. We think it's our intuition. We're like, no, honey, I got a gut feeling. I know. Yes, you do have an immense built-in bullshit detector. Okay, so forget if you don't like swearing, I'm not for you. I just want to tell you that now and do you that service. I try to clean it up a little bit, but I fail. You think you're using your intuition, but the reality is you do have an amazing intuition, but I call this the psychological shredder. Your intuition is so used to coming up here and being shredded in the shredder that it's being polluted and diluted with scarcity and scrutiny and just not skepticism. Okay, skepticism, scrutiny, so that the intuition has been lost. And so how do you get that back? Well, you bypass this and get into this, and you get into your body. And you start to develop your intuition again, your sense of connection to Mother Earth to be able to support you and actually believe that even the ground can support you, right? Get rooted again. There's many different ways to do that. I found dance. Dance is a beautiful modality. There's lots of different types. There's conscious dance is what I'm speaking of, right? 5 rhythms, journey dance, chakra dance. For me, it was so weird. When I went to one of these classes, I'm like, I walked into my first conscious dance class and I was like, holy, am I in the right place? Are these my people? Like, this looks weird. Like, what is this? Am I doing this right? Is the people looking at me? I mean, I was so self-conscious that I knew it was perfect for me to be out of control. I'm encouraging you to get into a situation where you are forced to feel awkward AF, where you're like, oh my God, I'm totally out of my element. That's how you're going to be forced to release, let go, and just be there. Because you can't control anything because you don't know what it is. Maybe for you that's taking some kind of an improv class or an acting class where you can't think of what's going to come say next, just organically blurts out. Maybe for you it is, just some kind of dance modality. I want to encourage you to do something that's totally out of your element that puts you in a place where you don't feel like you're in control. So for some of you, that could be a led class where you could take something where somebody is like giving you direction and you're following and you're learning to take somebody else's lead and let go. But anything that stirs you up and shakes you up and gets you out of your element is going to work. If you want to know more about any of those dance modalities, send me a message and I can tell you more about them, and we can look in your area and see what's available to you. And maybe you say, that's not for me, Heidi, give me something more practical because dance scares the crap out of me. Okay. How about this? I know you think what you're doing is the most loving thing, right? Solving people's problems, being in control, fixing everything, right? The fixer is another personality pattern that I have that we talk about. But I know you think you're being loving when you're in control, but it's actually the least loving thing you can do. And maybe that paradigm shift is something you need to hear today, right? That shift in perspective, that reframe for you. Here's the deal. You're robbing somebody else of their ability to possess self-esteem or resiliency. Like in that moment, they're going to solve their own problem and either feel really good about themselves or they're going to fail and fall flat on their face, but they're going to develop resiliency because they're going to get back up. You're robbing them of that opportunity when you think you have all the answers and you want to control the outcome and tell them what to think and how to feel and what to do and how to move next. You're robbing them. You're robbing them. And isn't that what you want for them the most, is to feel good? Your way of doing it is not providing them the opportunity. Now, here's the thing. How do you do that? The next time they ask you what you think, I want you to say 3 words that are very foreign to you that you're going to be like, is that French? I don't know. So when they, je ne sais pas, the next time they ask you what your opinion is, what they should do, I want you to go, I don't know. Even when I know you do know. I want you to go, I don't know. And then I want you to follow it up with, what do you think you should do? And then I want you to do the magic thing, wait. They're used to you jumping in because the pause is too long, because they're thinking about what the heck they're going to do and you already have the answer at the ready. But I want you to take a pause and I want you to say, I don't know. Step back and say, what do you think you should do? And wait for them to answer. And then whatever they say, sounds like a good idea. And let them try it. And start to practice that as your spiritual practice. Your spiritual mantras, I don't know. What do you think you should do? Namaste out of it. Namaste out of it, honey. Okay? Now I ask you, out of those things I've talked about, contacting me, going deeper with me, getting to the root of your control issues so you can breathe, stop self-medicating, okay, if you're doing that. Does that sound like a good plan? Does dance sound like a good plan? Does I don't know sound like a good plan? Pick one of those plans and ride it and see how it works for you. You know you. What do you need? Until another video, take excellent care of yourself. Make sure you're subscribed over here or send me a private message and let's dig a well and go deep. I love you. Know yourself, be yourself so you can love yourself.